Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another astrology human design gene key video here with Tan. So today we're continuing our gene key series with the next gene key, and that is gene key 21. So before we get started, if you are new to the gene keys, you're not sure what it is, I have made an introduction video to that, and I'll provide a link up above in the description box below, as well as a link to where you can get your gene keys profile as well. So yeah, do check that out first and then come back and watch this video to see if you have this gene key and what other gene keys you might have there. And also, I want to let you guys know that my art website has now currently been launched. So if you're interested in having a nice piece of pastel painting print on your wall, then you can head over there and see if there's anything that feels good for you there and grab one for yourself. As well as if you're interested in getting a birth chart reading, human design, or astrology, or gene keys reading, birth chart and astrology, that's the same. Then you can head over to my website as well. Me and my team would love to be your guides on your wonderful self-discovery journeys. So check that out in the description box below. So there's a lot in the description box below for you guys to check out. It's a magical little description box down there. Okay, so let's get started with this gene key 21, which is associated with the zodiac sign of Aries, and it's the same as human design gate 21, and that's the bird of the Kingfisher. But of course, we're going to do a quick overview of this gene key archetype first. So the 21st gene key moves from 9 degrees 30, so 9 degrees 30 minutes of Aries to 1507 degrees of Aries. And it moves from the shadow of control to the gift of authority to the siddhi of valor, a noble life. And the dream arc vision key bird is, of course, the Kingfisher. The life key animal is the stag, and the fear key animal and the shadow frequency is the seahorse. In the codon ring, this gene key is located in the ring of humanity and is associated with the amino acid arginine. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. In the 64 hexagram, this gene key, this hexagram, is fire over thunder. It's called biting through. Fire ignite where thunder strikes. Powerful magic focused through the quickening ray of ascension. Ooh, that's intense already. And this is an intense gene key. As we go through this, you'll know why. The programming partner of this gene key is gene key 48. And that's the zodiac sign of Libra. And I made a video on that just before I made this one, so I highly recommend that you do check out your programming partner there as well. In human design, this gate is located in the will center, the heart, or the ego center. It has various different names, and it's connected to gate 45 in the throat, forming a channel called the channel of sustenance or money, moving from the shadow of ownership to the gift of sustenance to the siddhi of philanthropy. Let's begin with the bird, the Kingfisher, because all of these gene keys, they're associated with some kind of natural archetype. And this one, when it comes to the bird, is the Kingfisher. So let's look at why this gene key is associated with the Kingfisher first. So the Kingfisher is a bird that's very cute and small, but it is known for their speed and agility in hunting. They are an emblem of prowess and proficiency. They are also a symbol of abundance, prosperity, money, and love. The eyes of the Kingfisher can zoom in on fish from the sky in detail, so they have exceptional ability and good perception there, which is associated with being very good in decision making. The female Kingfishers, now here's the interesting part of the Kingfisher, is that the females are actually brighter than the males, and you can identify the difference between them because the females would have an orange lower beak while the male's beak would be all black. So this is the opposite of most of the birds, because in the bird kingdom, the bird species, it's usually the males that have brighter feathers and plumage because they have to be the one to attract the females. They do the courtship there. But here we have the reversed. The female is the brighter one. So what this tells us is that this is a symbol of the female spirit, that there's a bit of a dominance of a female spirit happening here. And this will be a very strong theme as we look at today's gene key further in this video. Kingfishers are also highly territorial. They must have enough food stored in their homes. Otherwise, they will not be able to survive the winter. All right. Well, hello, fellow Jinkies 21. I have this one in my chart. It's my moon, my unconscious moon. So in the Gene Keys, it's my attraction sphere. So if you have this archetype somewhere in your profile, some of the traits that you might display are going to be traits of somebody who has some kind of authority and wants to be some kind of leadership role in their life. They have this, like you have this, and mostly it's coming through your voice. You may have this voice of, like when you speak, you instill willpower in others, and your willpower can kind of dominate over other people pretty easily. So depending on how you want to use that, it's up to you. But you are somebody that appears to be very loyal, very trustworthy, and a lot of people will put responsibility on you because you're trustworthy and you seem like responsible in a sense. Of course, we can also have the negative traits here, which is somebody that can kind of be a bit controlling with themselves, with others, with the environment in some way, shape, or form. And we'll look at that right now, actually, because we're going to begin this archetype by looking at the shadow frequency, which is control. So control, at the basis of the meaning of this word, it is coming from something quite territorial. So when we look at territory, we can begin by looking at our body as a territory, our emotions, our thoughts, they're a territory. And then we move on to something that's a little bit bigger, which is like our relationships, our family. They become our territory. It's like our thing. It's almost kind of like this feeling of like we own it. And then of course we have your home, that's your territory. And then of course we have your land, the property that you're in, which can be considered your territory. And then this expands all the way to like your country. And then the earth itself is our territory as well. There's two ways that the shadow of control is going to manifest. It's going to manifest as either somebody who is too weak to have any control in their life, or somebody who is just exerting their will super strongly and just controlling of everything in their life. Mostly this has to do with money, but it's not limited to money. It can be various different things, because when we look at territory, in the past, we would actually be battling for land, right, for a country. But nowadays, the battleground is money. There's a lot of competition, and we have to kind of almost like fight for money in the shadow frequency here. To understand control a little bit deeper, we have to understand the patriarchy here, because that's where it's really coming from. And at some point in history, the patriarchal system became quite dominant in the world. And because of this, most of the people who are in control are only concerned about power and money. And those who are not interested in power or money are way too submissive to do anything about it. And especially when we look at the repressive shadow of control, which is being submissive, it's almost this feeling of being squashed or overcome with willpower by those who have more, who have power, who have money, who have things. The people who don't, they just feel way too weak and too submissive, and that their visions for a better world, their willpower to do anything to change the world is just collapses in. And of course, this is talking at a global level, but if you apply this to your own life personally and individually, even in relationships, so this gene key is relational by nature, because when you look at control, you have to control something, and there's more things out there for you to control than just yourself, right? So there's a relational nature to this gene key. So we look at relationships, and if a person is feeling too submissive in a relationship, it means that they're just really feeling overwilled. Their willpower of the other is just like over dominating the submissive person's willpower, and there's no energy, there's no drive, there's no motivation to do anything about it. There's fear involved here at the bottom of it. So when we really look at control and why a person is able to control another, it's through fear. When you instill fear, whether that means you have more money, you have more power, you have more physical strength, your voice is louder, whatever that is, you can use that to instill fear with another person and you gain control. But the opposite of that, if you don't have power, if you don't have money, maybe you're just physically weaker, your voice is weaker, your emotions are, not healed, not handled properly, then you will not have that willpower to do anything about the person that's controlling you. And so you fall and you collapse into the submissive state. So the root of this control, this need for territory, is stemming from the foundation of a distrust in life. So of course, when you are in the submissive, repressed version of control, you are denying your own personal power. And this shows up as submission. You let others remain in control of you without asserting your own power, and without asserting your own authority, we can say. And a large part of why you might do this is because of the fear of responsibility. Because if you were to rise up to the person who was controlling you, or if you just were to take charge of your own life in general and find power in your own life, that comes with a lot of responsibility, because now you have to really manage various different parts of your life by yourself. You may have to manage your money by yourself. You may have to manage your home by yourself. You may have to manage a business by yourself. You may have to manage a family by yourself. There's a lot of responsibility when you are, we can say, coming out of that submissive state. And so with this overwhelming responsibility, and you don't have the willpower to feel like you can take on the responsibility, so you just stay in that submissive state. And when you're staying in this submissive state, you can put on a mask of being somebody that's like easygoing and laid back. You know, we've seen that. And but ultimately you're just hiding from your true responsibility. And then of course we have the other side of this, which is the reactive controlling nature. So these are the people that are going to be seen by the world as like actual control freaks. You are not able to handle any kind of changes unless you instigate the change. You strive to maintain control over others through a hierarchical dominance by instilling fear on others. And when you're in this, heightened state of control, it's very hard for you to let go of it. So only a very deep life crisis, emotional crisis can really humble you to letting go of some control. So these are the people that it's really hard to change them. It's really hard to make them see colors. They only see red, So how can we move from this shadow of control to the gifts of authority? Richard Rudd says that the gift of authority is something that is innate. It is in your heart. And as we look a little bit further into this gift, we'll see why it has a lot to do with the heart. So we'll get into that. So the reason why this gift of authority is associated so much with the heart is because it's associated with love. So now, if you are somebody who is given a position of authority in some ways, maybe you are, and you know, this is the thing about authority is you have to be given that position of authority. You cannot put yourself in a position of authority over others. Unless maybe, of course, you are a parent and, you have to take care of your child, so you have to be the authority figure there. But even in that case, we can choose what kind of authority we want to be. So the gift of authority means that you choose to be an authority who does have responsibility over others, who is in charge of the main decision-making in this kind of relationship that you have, but you are doing it from a place of love, rather than from a place of instilling fear on another person. So if you can have authority over others and do it from a place of love, meaning that you are in service to the other in some ways, you're concerned about what they need, what they want, you're not putting fear upon them so that they can submit to you. You will inspire loyalty in people. People will trust you. True loyalty can only be maintained when the frequency of love outweighs the frequency of fear. The moment that you try to have authority over others by instilling fear onto them, then of course we step into control, but you no longer have true and authentic loyalty from that person anymore. They no longer, if they could change their authority in that moment, they would change. They would not stay with you. They would not be loyal to you. But if you are with them from a place of love, they will always stay by your side till the end. So therefore, authority cannot be asserted through will. It can only be afforded through trust. And trust comes with love. Imposing your will comes with fear. Trust comes with love and loyalty. So the archetype of the master and the servant is the archetype of authority here, but not the master and the servant through control, but the master and the servant through authority. So what that means is when you really look at a master and a servant, and if we have a good authority going, we actually have a master who knows that because they have a servant, they actually have to cater to a lot of what their servant wants. Because they have so much authority over their servant, they now have to be mindful of their servant sensitivities, what they need. So they almost become the servant. The master almost becomes the servant and offers service to the servant as the servant serves the master. So we have two sides of a relationship that is serving each other. And if we can have this kind of a relationship, this is what is considered to be true love. And this is very powerful. There's a mutually beneficial, powerful relationship dynamic that can come as a result of this. So the relationship between, authority and submission, between the servant and the master, is a relationship between the yin and the yang. So if we really come back to the metaphysics, the spirituality of it, it's the foundation of yin and yang. To find this balance in this yin and yang dynamic, which exists in everything that you do. There is a yin and yang in everything that you do. But in a balanced yin and yang, the female cannot be too submissive, because if the feminine, and I say female here not to mean a woman, but like the feminine energy, if the feminine energy in a relationship is too submissive, then the masculine will have to automatically become the more assertive. That's just the way that the balance in the universe works, right? So both of them have to work together so that there is no one side that's too submissive and one side that's too assertive, that there's a balance there, that they're serving each other. And when you're in the gift of authority, you will be working through this yin and yang dynamic in all kinds of relationships in your life, whether that is parent and child, husband and wife and wife, husband and husband, friends, or employer and employee. Maybe not friends, unless one friend has authority over the other friend. I don't know why I said that. But employer and employee, we can have that happening as well. So when we look at large groups, because we can also have this in large groups and communities that has a leader, that has an authority, this leader, this authority, with the gift of authority, is going to be there with the people. It's going to be connecting and trying to understand how they can best serve their people. So the person with the authority, if they are the authority of a community, they are going to have to be very responsible. They're responsible for the entire group. So there's different types of leaderships that is being discussed and presented, within the Gene Keys. We have the leadership of Gate 7 or Gene Key 7, the leadership of the 31, 31st Gene Key, and then we have the leadership of the 21, and they're all like different kinds of leadership. But the leadership of the 21 is one where, whether that's in a company, in a family, or in a community, the people that are a part of that community are somehow selecting you, the person with the gifts of authority, to be the responsible one, to be the main decision maker. So therefore, you must not abuse that authority and turn it into control. You must understand that if they've given you the responsibility to be the decision maker, that decisions that you make has to be of service to everybody else. Usually, if a particular group has themes of money involved in some ways, you probably need the leadership of the 21 to come in. If the group is more communal and doesn't have the themes of like money or too much responsibility involved, then we can have more of the 7, Gene Key 7 or Gene Key 31 collective spirit happening. So ultimately, to really step into this gift of authority and to be of service, we can say to be of service to your people, you have to have a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage and willpower and biting through, as Richard Rudd calls it. In order for you to be able to do that, you have to be disciplined. You have to almost be forged by fire. Like, how you put metal into fire and you forge it to make like an axe or a sword. You have to almost like be pressured into circumstances in your life where you have been controlled, where you had to, where you were in that submissive state, so you can really understand what it would be like when you are given the power of authority to not treat the people that you are ruling over in the way that you were badly treated when you were being controlled by others. It's almost like karma in a sense. You have to have karma hit you there and learn to not only to, yes, of course, to step up, to bring your power back to yourself, to come out of submissive states, but also to have morality when you are in a more dominant position in a community or a group or a company or relationship, so that you are in the good dominance. You're in the authority kind of dominance, and you're not in the control kind of dominance. So I hope that kind of made sense with what I meant here by discipline and being forged and having the courage. So let's look at the siddhi, which is the siddhi of valor. And of course, as I mentioned for all of my Jinki videos, I don't want to go talk too long about the siddhi, because the siddhi is almost an enlightened state of being, and you almost don't have to do anything anymore. It's just your being, what your being becomes once you are playing out the gift throughout your life. So the siddhi of valor is associated with the words nobility. And so the history of the word nobility is coming from kings and queens and people who are like rulers of particular countries. They're considered the nobility of a country, right? In that sense, somebody becomes noble because of their blood, because of the breed. But here we're looking at nobility that is a nobility of character. So anybody can become noble if you're tapping into the siddhi of valor here. You don't have to even have it in your bloodline, but you may have it in your bloodline. If you look back at your parents' life, your great-grandparents' life, for example, you may find that there is some nobility there, but that's not always the case, because you can always build your character into nobility. So nobility and valor contains sacrifice above all else, the act of absolute self-surrender. When you lay your life, you lay your entire being down for a higher ideal. So of course, when we talk about, authority, we're talking about you're in service to the people that you are leading. Here, we're talking about not only do you surrender to the people that you are leading, but you also surrender yourself to the highest of ideals. So this is a truly, truly moral character. Like if you've come across somebody who's got the siddhi of valor, they've tapped into that siddhi of valor, you cannot taint their virtue. You can't taint their noble character. You can't taint their loyalty and their morality. They will never do anything that is considered like cheating or doing something under, the table. They will not be sneaking around. They will not do anything that's considered morally wrong. They will have that highest, noble character. They have, and this is coming from the fact that they have completely died into the divine ideal. They understand the divine ideal. They've connected to that. And valor will invoke what is also called communion. So valor, this nobility of character gathers people around you. Socially, you surrender to your position, and spiritually, you surrender to your karma. And this is why we go back to that need to be forged. When you are being forged in the flames to discipline your character, you surrender completely into those circumstances, meaning that you surrender into understanding why you had to be submissive at some point in your life, and you surrender to knowing that you have to get yourself out of that submissive position. You have to begin to take responsibility for something in your life. And this is what really makes somebody very noble and very moral, because they know that they know how the other person would feel. There's love, there's compassion. They know how the other person would feel, so they would never do it to the other person. This builds character. As Richard Rudd says here, he says, "You have to realize that no matter how muddy the waters you will find yourself in, your pure nature can never be soiled." This is what I'm talking about. So I'm going to read a quote from the Jinki's book. "To be a master, that is, a being who has attained realization through this siddhi, you must lead by example. You have to know the absolute horrors of living within the most tightly controlled hierarchical situations. You have to understand the human need for control and the depths of your own fear of losing control. You have to be tested by the forces that will not relinquish control, and you have to continuously be subjected to external controls. Once you see that no external form of control can rob you of your true nobility, this siddhi of valor will finally dawn deep inside your DNA. So no matter how tightly you have been controlled, the moment that you are given a position to be controlling, you are not. no matter how tightly you have been controlled. Once you get yourself out of that situation and you are now given a position where you could be controlling, you don't act out on that. You do not become controlling. This is the pureness of your heart that can never be tainted when you're in your true nobility and your true valor. So when you meet these people who are in the siddhi of valor, or maybe it's the gifts of authority, they will act as a friend to you, despite the fact that they have an aura about them that is strong, we can say. They will still act as your friend. And this brings a deep level of communion to the people that are around the 21. In many ancient symbols, we can see that there is an association with the male pole surrendering to the female pole. And when we get to the siddhi of valor, we have like this knight. If you imagine this picture of a knight or a knighthood who is empowered and who is empowered through surrendering to the female. He's not empowered by being more masculine. He's empowered by surrendering to the female, kind of like the Kingfisher. And the fact that the Kingfisher, we have the female that shines brighter than the male. And of course, this is an metaphorical representation. It's not literal. It doesn't mean that a knight surrenders to his feminine and then becomes more empowered. It's just the idea behind it. So therefore, valor can be summarized as the courage to surrender and let the lower self die to the unknown world of the higher self. So that's going to be the transmission of Gene Key 21, Human Design Gate 21. If you have this archetype like I do, then comment below and let me know how your experiences have been with this archetype. And click like if you like this video, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you have already subscribed and you have been following the channel, then thank you so much. I love you all so much. And of course, if you would like a beautiful piece of pastel art print on your wall, then head over to my art website and you can see if you like anything there and purchase one for yourself. And if you are interested in any kind of reading, human design, astrology, gene keys, then head over to my website, tanastrology.com, where me and my team are offering various different kinds of readings for you guys there. And we would be excited to be your guides on your self-discovery journeys. So head over there and check out what feels right for you. And that's it for today, beautiful souls. I'm sending you all so much love, and I'll see you in the next Gene Key video that's coming out very soon.